Welcome to the Path Podcast. It's June 12th, 2024. My name is Tani, here with Auk.
Hey, Tani.
Hey.
Man, I'm into basketball, and I just wanted to take a moment to. It's been a rough couple of weeks for basketball legends. Two have died recently. With the day we're recording, Jerry West. He's the guy that's on the logo of the NBA logo. Perennial or amazing Laker from the 60s and 70s. Amazing player, amazing general manager. Has assembled many championship teams. He played on the championship team. He played in something like 9 finals, NBA finals, only winning 1 because he played in the era of the Celtics. But he's definitely a Hall of Famer multiple times over. And but unfortunately, sadly, he died today. He was 86. Hence the Laker jersey.
Weird. That is brutal.
It is.
I didn't know that. Like, I'm finding this out right here on
now.
the
I was like, yeah. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. And I knew you had a reason to be wearing the Laker jersey, but I've had a wild day, and I didn't know that.
Right.
I'm a fan, and that's rough news. I would say that's. I was going to try to get through the show without saying it's been a rough day.
Sorry, dude. Oh, man.
Because I had been feeling like, am I just going to say it on the show?
It's okay. There are rough days. And if today's been a rough day, it's been a rough day. Last week, I think it was, last week or 2 weeks ago, Bill Walton died. Bill Walton was 71. He was, a little bit younger, and but man, that guy. There's a documentary on ESPN about Bill Walton, and it's a pretty great documentary. I have a newfound respect for Bill Walton, as crazy as that guy was. He's done some amazing things for the sport and as an announcer as well. But man, basketball is losing some legends.
Yeah, and our rider logo.
Yeah.
It's many things, but it one of the things it is in its small way from me a tribute, because I am a fan.
Yeah.
And I thought it's such an iconic image with the way he's kind of changing lanes, dribbling the ball.
Yep.
And I always thought that was it has so much kind of motion in it, and so much he had a particular posture, and you can recognize it anywhere. Like, other people moved differently and held their bodies differently in that move, I think.
Yep.
And so, yeah, wild. I'm a basketball fan too, as in I enjoy playing basketball, and I went through some time for probably from the time when I was maybe 13 till maybe the time I was 30. I would call myself a really involved fan. Like, I would go to Laker games sometimes, and I would watch most of the games, even in the regular season.
We went to a game together.
Yeah, and even in the bad years, like Nick Van Exel was a fan.
Right.
But lately, it's more for me. Just I don't have a lot of time to watch. I don't watch these days. These days, I have a little bit of I don't really know if I have time in my life to watch men play sports games.
Yeah.
And to some days that even extends to like downhill racing, right? So definitely to basketball.
Yeah.
And nothing against when I was a bartender many years ago, some people would come in and they would say, I don't watch the NBA anymore. The players are overpaid.
Right.
I just want to clarify, I'm not coming from that place.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I'm the same way. I love basketball. I've broken remotes before watching NBA Laker finals games.
Yeah.
That's, my heart is so into it. But man, it's been a number of years since I've watched, and it's not because I think that the game is degenerated and they're overpaid or what have you.
Right.
Although I will say this, watching the women's NC2A tournament this year with Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese and others, that the college women's game tournament this year was way more engaging than the men's.
Cool.
Yeah, it was exciting. I think the quality of play. I've always thought that the quality of play in women's basketball is phenomenal. maybe you don't see the soaring dunks and what have you, but the shooting, the ball movement, the defense, all of this is phenomenal, and I really love the fact that you have players like Caitlin Clark and others elevating the visibility of the game.
Yep. And I appreciate that. I appreciate the teamwork and the shooting. I love Magic.
Right.
But I also love Michael. I love all of it.
Right.
I love
I
love the power dunk, and I love
the
getting
athleticism.
posterized. And
Same.
I love it all.
Yeah.
But I do also really appreciate, and I don't think this is lost from what I can see in the modern game as much as some people might say. The teamwork, the dynamics, and all that. So
I agree. As I don't play basketball nearly as much now. I rarely play, but it is something I've greatly fond of.
It's one of I have almost no natural. I have of the main attributes that make you a good basketball player. Of like the I would say of the 4 main attributes that make you a good basketball player, I'm really low scoring on at least 2 of them.
Right.
Height and jumping.
Right. Yeah. Well, I didn't start playing basketball until after college, and it was hilarious because a buddy of mine, after college, he's like, "Auk, you really don't know how to do a layup, do you?" I'm like, I've never played basketball, but I can't tell you. He showed me how to do a layup. This is the same buddy of mine. We have probably played over 1,000 games of one-on-one.
Really?
And I am 0-1,000 against him. When we first started playing, seeing he had grown up playing, he would just beat me handily, and he just liked hanging out. But as we progressed, I played a lot of basketball after college. And so as we progressed, it got to the point where I was we would always play to like 11, and then we'd play best of 5 or best of 7 to 11. And I, towards the end, or in the latter few years that we were playing, we sometimes would get up to like 23, 21.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that was so much fun. Actually, that guy actually gave me this jersey when he got married many years ago. So
I used to play a ton of pickup basketball.
Yeah.
Before I got into mountain biking, really.
Oh, okay.
And
right.
like towards the beginning of my mountain biking career, I would just go to the park and play with people at the park or friends.
Same.
Yeah, that was super fun.
Yeah.
And again, it's just kind of a question of you can only do so many things in your day.
That is true. And I feel like mountain biking is way more sustainable for me in the long run.
Yeah.
Like I knock on wood. Yeah, exactly. Anyways, yeah, and riding on Wednesday nights these days has just been phenomenal. It's been really, really enjoyable.
Yeah, I agree. Those rides really have been capturing the spirit of some of the early group rides that really cemented my love for the scene and the sport and everything.
Yeah, I agree. So speaking of fun events, I was really, really sad that I missed out on Bikes and BBQ.
Yeah, we missed you too.
Well, thank you.
But huge thanks to Smoked, who contributed food.
Oh my gosh!
At a sponsor price, and 1886, who supplied the keg.
Oh my gosh!
So shout out to them for sponsoring the ride. That's awesome.
And their food
was well appreciated.
Their food is excellent.
Yeah,
if you're ever in,
I think they might have made some new friends.
If you're ever in the Orange Circle, both Smoked and 1886 are right next to each other, so you can actually go, drink some great beers at both places. 1886 actually does have a kitchen too, but Smoked
local family-owned businesses, mountain biker owned.
Yep.
So
yeah. Shout out to Smoked. 1886. Oh gosh, I saw that and I was like, oh gosh, I think I just might go there.
Yeah,
because I missed it. I'll just go there. Their burnt ends are amazing.
Yeah, totally.
Oh, man, so
I like their spicy. I think it's a raspberry barbecue sauce.
Oh
or something.
Yeah.
Spicy, tangy.
Yeah, like a little bit. That's that sweetness of a fruit. Like
I think it's raspberry maybe.
Yeah, I think it might be. Yeah. So how many people showed up? And
So I think we maybe 30 or 40 here at this, the primary meeting location.
Okay.
And there was a secondary location at Lot C at Irvine Park.
Got it.
And I think maybe 50 by then, give or
Wow,
take.
okay,
I don't know.
Fantastic.
And then more, I think, for the barbecue than for the ride too.
Oh, right.
Because some people, you didn't have to come on the ride to
Right.
come to the party.
I was very close to being one of those people. Very close to being one of those people, but I didn't make it out.
We'll do it again next year. I think it went really well. It was fun. I had a great time. Huge thanks to everyone who came.
Yeah.
And all the riders who came out and joined us, and Val and Tori and the rest of the crew making it, Jeff Frost making it happen.
Yeah.
So all the legwork.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm sure I'm forgetting people too.
And yeah, huge thanks to everyone. Speaking of events, man, these free demo days. Is that right? Am I seeing that?
We
Free
are
demo
bringing
day.
our demo fleet. We got a permit and everything. We're bringing our demo fleet to Irvine Park, Lot C, from 8 to 3, and you can reserve a reservation. You can go on our website and look at our demo bikes and see what we have,
Right.
or you can go to the Facebook event and see what we have.
Right.
And then you can email us at support@thepathbikeshop.com to make a reservation.
Got it.
We also will take walk-ups, but might not have the bike you want unless you reserve it.
Right. Man, that is exciting.
It's fun, right?
Yeah,
I
for
think
sure.
I think some people are gonna have some fun, and then some people are gonna have that, oh, I shouldn't have tried that moment.
So maybe I shouldn't go.
Well, we have a lot of cool demo bikes. We have my bike, the Pivot Switchblade, in a bunch of
yeah.
sizes.
Yeah.
We have my other bike, the Heckler SL, in a bunch of sizes. We have my other bike, the Relay PNW, in large.
So whoever's watching this before the event, all of those bikes are amazing.
We have a Norco Range VLT C1. That's the bike I crashed.
Oops. Yep.
So if you want to feel safe going faster than is safe, you should try that bike.
That probably has all the bikes that you well, not all the bikes, but the Range and the Pivot Switchblade have that. We've been talking about really long reaches in the mediums.
Yeah.
So those are you get to kind of experience that.
And we have some Santa Cruz High Towers and Bronsons.
Ooh, yeah.
And we also have Pivot Shuttle AMs. So and I'm just going from memory. We have Trance 2s from Giant.
Yeah.
We have I don't know, 40 demo bikes or something maybe.
That's great, man. I still remember. I mean, I remember lots of things about our podcast because we've been doing it for a long time. Man, there's during COVID no demo fleet,
Right?
And then
It's
taking a long time, not a long time, but taking a bit of effort to rebuild that.
We have Trance Elite 2s.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah,
Everyone should try that bike.
Yeah.
Everyone should try that bike as a that's a great example of an SL. Well, it might be the only full power SL short travel mountain bike.
Other than the new 2025 Orbea Rise.
That is true.
But it is a category buster, as in it defies, it makes it more difficult it's a difficult bike to define because it's full power with 85 Newton meters, but it's a 400 watt hour battery and it's more in the SL weight range.
I think it's probably in that 44 pound range. You could build them up.
And that's at like $6,000-7,000.
Yeah, for sure. That's not the.
If you build it up the way a lot of its competitors are, a lot of people think of say a Rise,
right?
And a Rise can be down to 36, 37 pounds. Realistically,
that's the $12,000 version,
and also the one with a bunch of compromises that make it one you wouldn't ride. It's got a Fox 34 on it,
right?
And it's got thin tires on it, and I think it has single piston, not dual. Has two piston brakes on it, not 4 piston brakes.
Right.
The Rise built out anyway where with a Fox 36 and 4 piston brakes and decent tires is 40 pounds.
Yeah.
At least, or around there, maybe 39 and a half if you spend $12,000.
Yeah.
And if you spend $12,000 on your Trance elite,
2.
it might not be much over 40
Yep,
either.
I agree
right?
with that.
So
I agree with that. And speaking of weights, I was looking at weights of downhill bikes,
yeah,
and they're 38, 39, 40 pounds.
yep.
Like there's very few of them that are 36 pounds, but they're all, yeah. But what's interesting is they are running, like a number of the downhill racers are running that 500 gram weight on the bottom bracket.
Oh,
Have
really?
you seen that? Yeah, they're putting weight on the bottom bracket to bring that center of gravity down.
Interesting. I did not know that, but that's really interesting.
I feel like that. I don't know how long they've been doing this, but I don't remember reading about it.
Where did you hear about it?
Yeah, just go on any of the news sites, Pink Bike, what have you.
I had heard of the concept. I didn't realize that a lot of people were doing it.
Yeah, I was just looking at Pink Bike's feature on Laurie Greenland's V10, Santa Cruz V10. It's the 8th generation one, and saying how he was playing with different weights. So he's settled at 500 gram weight. That's like
Inside the frame?
I don't think they put it in. I don't know if they put it inside the frame.
Interesting.
Um,
Like bolted externally, like you can see it?
I'd have to look closer.
Interesting. So crazy.
Yeah, and
Rad.
so
I love this stuff.
yeah, so it's really, man, they don't care that they're adding 2 pounds to the bike.
If it makes it handle better, it makes it handle better.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I guess 500 grams is 1 pound, right?
A little over.
Yeah, so
But
a
it's
little
closer
over.
to 1 than 2.
Yeah, but yeah, so that's really interesting, and different pros are doing that. But yeah, the bikes are coming in 38, 39, 40.
They beat the enduro. Some of the ways they get some weight back compared to an enduro bike, no dropper post,
Right.
and often a much smaller cassette.
Yep. 7 gear. Some people are running that 7 gear.
No big
Almost
big granny
Yep.
gear, no big climbing gear.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting, on that. I'm always interested to see like the pressures people are running in their tires,
Yeah.
Supposedly Laurie Greenland's not running inserts. I was looking on, the one that had the weights, article that had the weights on it. It is kind of mixed,
Some inserts, some not.
Some inserts, some not. But then again, I don't know. The ones that aren't running, that say they're not, are they?
And what kind of pressures are they claiming?
Like Laurie Greenland is running 22 on the front, 26 in the rear. No inserts. So that makes sense, I guess.
Oh, that makes sense to me. I don't know how much.
I think that's impressive that...
I don't know the rider weight there.
Oh, yeah. I don't know Laurie Greenland's rider weight. But World Cup downhiller running 22 in the front. I mean, the forces that front wheel's going through, front tires going through.
That means you can run 22 in the front, probably. Although we don't know weight, and like some riders are smoother than others,
Right.
even at the World Cup level.
But they're going so fast, and the forces
Yeah, I
go-
think most riders can trust 22.
Yeah,
Yeah,
So
I definitely think. I was just picturing the bell curve of pressures from rider speeds, where the pressures go down as the riders get faster, and then they start to go up at some point as the riders get faster.
right.
Like,
Right. Oh, that's a very interesting, dip in the curve.
so like, I think that there's that, and I'll add to that as kind of like a basic thought experiment. I think I want to go exactly as fast as you would go up to the lower tire pressures, and not much faster.
I think that's pretty fast.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like at the
because-
point where where having kind of on the low side of tire pressure stops being an advantage.
Right.
I'm like, I'm good.
Right.
Like that's
Right.
big jumps,
Right.
big hucks, like, and just like crazy speeds, and
Yeah.
like, and bumps at crazy bumps at crazy speeds. And
Like
and
I even
also
feel,
too, you know what else it is? It's, for me, I never regret that low of pressure unless I ride outside of the rhythm that I'm trying to ride either,
yeah.
usually.
Right.
And I think there are speeds you can go where
Even inside, you need the higher pressures.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I can probably. I don't know if I have ever ridden my bike that fast on a trail.
There are moments on the trail where I know that I've exceeded the tire pressure I was running at the time. So, in other words, the tire rolled over, or I blew up a sidewall from a pinch, or I dented a rim real bad.
Right. Yeah, no, that is interesting. The other thing I was looking at, I was watching Loic Bruni's winning run this past weekend's World Cup race, and I was trying to watch his ankles.
Oh yeah,
that's actually all I was looking at. So I was trying to figure out, like, okay,
when is he toes down? When is he heels dropped?
Exactly.
And when is he more neutral?
And is like when he's with his strong foot forward and he's turning in the direction of his chocolate foot.
Right.
Is that foot that's forward, is that heel down and the outside toe pointing up?
Okay, yeah.
And because
some coaches, I think, call that the wedge or the pizza.
Yep. But is that motion, even if it's not this extreme, but is that motion the fastest motion?
Is he doing that?
I think so.
I would guess that it depends on the turn.
Like sometimes might just be.
So the more sweeping, arcing turns are going to be 1 foot position, I think, closer to, I'm speculating, thought experiment, closer to parallel, more neutral. Where you can react in either direction.
Yeah.
You're not super planted and low, but you're also not high and sketchy, but also you're more likely to be able to carry that arcing speed.
I see.
With that even distribution and the kind of non-biased.
Right.
And then the more you get, taking it to its extreme, let's say it turns into a full cutty at the apex, right? Like blow up the corner.
Right.
That's outside foot down, toe pointed, right? Like,
yep.
So there could be anywhere in between those two, I feel like.
Right. So that's okay. Now, how about turning the other way? So now you're turning.
Now you're turning towards your back foot.
Yep.
So if your back foot is your right foot, if your left foot forward like me, that's a right turn.
Yep. So are you doing the same thing?
So is it a flat turn or a bermed turn?
Let's talk about both.
Okay. And is it bumpy or is it smooth?
Okay, let's say it's a flat, kind of bumpy turn.
Okay.
Not off camber.
Yep. So I picture what's happening is the knees kind of move towards each other, which probably is the back toe pointing a little bit and the front heel dropping a little bit, but not a lot.
Right.
Is what I picture myself doing in that situation, and leaning the bike over, but not the rider.
Right.
Trying to separate the plane there.
Right.
And trying not to have to plant the outside foot low, because that's going to help me blow up the turn. I want to carry speed.
Right. And when you plant that, if you do need to do that motion, getting the outside foot down, you're rotating forward, not backwards. Oh yeah, you have to.
I would say rotating backwards is often a mistake in that situation.
No, that's not.
I have seen people do it, and it doesn't usually seem like a great move unless there's some sort of pedal strike implication or some other thing at play.
Right. See, I was kind of thinking, like, I've been thinking, what have I been doing these days? And I haven't broken it down into all the different type of cornering, what have you. But I feel like I find myself like pushing that front foot, so right turn for me because my left foot is forward. Like the toe is wanting to push down to maybe weight the outside corner. But then I also find that my back foot is pointing to help keep me forward.
Yep.
Like when I'm in that position, it's harder. Like I can't do like the, back foot. I can't do the opposite,
The wedge.
the opposite wedge. Like,
Right.
it's kind of like,
No, that doesn't bend that way as much.
yeah. So I find myself actually, but then I kind of think, well, is the optimal, like, keep that inside foot flat in that situation, to weighting the outside.
So I think a lot of this for me in that particular cornering situation has to do with getting my inside knee up over the top tube a little bit, maybe.
Right. Yeah. And
Which
so
that's part of that is pointing the rear toe.
Yeah.
But it's not to
see what
weight
you're
it; it's to like it's almost to raise it up.
So that it lets you get your body like breaking the plane.
Right. And the short cranks help with that a lot.
Yes. Yeah, for sure.
And then I think other than that, I think I'm mostly trying to not be biased towards put toe down or heel down in that situation.
Right.
Because that's a commitment. Both of those are commitments that I'm trying to not make.
Right, because you might in a flat, bumpy corner, you might have to go either way.
Right.
Yeah.
You might have to like suddenly get both toes down a little to help the rear wheel step out a little bit to do what the front wheel's doing.
Right.
Which maybe I overdid that in my crash, and my rear wheel stepped out way too much.
Right.
Like,
yeah. But you're goofy foot, right?
I'm regular foot and I ride left foot forward. So I'm also essentially regular footed on the bike.
Oh, right.
And I push the skateboard with my right foot, not Mongo, like a weirdo.
Yeah, I think maybe that's true.
So generally, I feel a little more confident in right turns than left turns most of the time.
Yeah. What I also think is interesting is, and I need to watch more of this, what I feel, and I was looking down at my feet when I was cornering, when I feel like, oh, my toe must be really pointed, it's really not much. It's more of a sensation of like heavy pressure in that direction.
Right.
And like that's really what's doing it. I'm like, man, my toe must be like this. And I look down and it's like,
Yeah.
So
You're right. A little bit of angle makes a big difference in weighting and weight bias for the whole body.
right. And perception of how far you're, and maybe because I don't have good ankle flexion, but in my mind's eye, the flexion is much more than I think actually is.
I have a pretty hard limitation on the ankle I did the bimalleolar fracture on, so I know I can't. I hope I'm like trying to like bust through and go past it. But.
Right. But it also makes me okay. So I had the synthetic Impact Pros, and I've probably had them for 7 or 8 years. And so I was like, man, my feet are just getting tired, and so I was like, I think I need to get a new pair of shoes. So I was like, I think we had a conversation, I don't know if it's on show, about Impact Pro, Canvas, synthetic. So I came to the shop and I was looking and I got
Freerider Canvas.
This is the Freerider. This is not the Impact. Sorry, this is Freerider. Right, Freerider Canvas. And so
That's usually what I wear.
This is what you wear, right?
Mostly, yeah.
What is interesting is, Freerider, not Impact. Sorry, Freerider versus Freerider Pro, Canvas versus synthetic. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. This flex feels similar to, like the stiffness in the sole feels similar to my Freerider Pro, really 7 or 8 years old. And I was like, oh, wow, that's interesting. So there's that kind of flex. So I came back to the shop and I found these. Freerider Pro synthetic. And
Stiff. Yep.
And I was like, this is what my other old shoes feel like or felt like when they were new.
Right.
And it is true. So I like the stiff.
You do.
I did.
Have you had any moments where you felt a little bit numb to the pedal location or anything?
Oh, that's interesting. I haven't ridden with a pair of new shoes in a long time.
Have you ridden on the new ones yet? A little bit.
I rode once. It was a cluster failure.
So I
Not because of the shoes.
I see the benefits of a stiff shoe, especially in a crash. I feel like I almost want to get a stiffer shoe than
Just
I have
for if you
just to protect my foot in a crash.
right.
But when I do get stiffer shoes, I don't like how my feet move in them.
Oh.
And I think too, it's not just your ankle that's moving; it's your foot.
Right,
This
so-
this is a fresh thought for me
Okay.
as we're talking.
So by movement, if this is your pedal, by movement, do you mean this type of movement or this?
I meant fore and aft,
Right.
where I feel like I can change whether the pressure is on the ball of my foot or my instep without really moving my ankle, just by moving my foot, just by changing my foot shape.
Yeah. No, that's interesting. I feel
And I hadn't
like-
thought of that till just now.
Yeah. Okay.
But when I ride with really stiff shoes, what I had thought of is I just feel restricted, and I feel kind of numb to the pedal.
Right.
Like I don't quite know exactly where the pedal is.
Interesting. See, I was feeling like, man, my feet. Maybe because my feet muscles are not strong.
Maybe all this weighting is working your feet muscles more than you're used to,
think
and
it
that's why you
is.
thought you needed new shoes.
I should-
And I think we just unraveled it right there on the show. Maybe
I need to-
at least
maybe
at
I'll
least
just
as
go
far
back
as
and use my
bro
synth-
science can unravel stuff.
exactly. Go back and use my synthetic old beat up Freerider Pro synthetics. Yeah, that's
I
interesting.
think maybe you've been working your foot muscles more.
I think I have been.
and thinking of it as all ankle movement. And I think maybe partly I was also thinking of it as all ankle movement.
Right.
And I think maybe
But it's foot. It's like it's kind of this motion.
the foot is a very flexible organ or
It
whatever.
is.
Or
It is, and it's the toes. Like I think, like what I've been noticing too is my toes. Like the way my toes are like gripping the front of the shoe.
well,
Right. Like
yeah, but also most people's arch
Arch.
increases and decreases throughout their movements.
right. And I think that could be also what's going on.
And even aside from the arch, you can point your toe partly without moving your ankle. Like your
Yeah,
foot
totally.
is your whole foot is flexible.
Yeah, and that's kind of exactly within your shoe, because you have the double arch in your foot. You can point that without.
You can move all the way to the outside of your foot, the inside of your foot, the front of your foot, or the back of your foot,
like-
just using foot strength.
Like even flattening your foot is a changing of the ankle.
If you ever step on like an acorn in bare feet, you'll see your foot do it. Move all the weight off of that spot.
Right, exactly.
And it takes a lot of foot flexibility to do that.
Yeah. So it's really interesting. I also had an interesting experience with canvas versus synthetic shoes. Like right now in Southern California, in the morning, can almost feel like it's raining. It's June gloom, right? It can almost feel like it's raining, and what that does is it loads the bushes up with moisture. And so the first person to come through the trail unloads all that moisture onto you. I've never been so wet riding my bike than like the other week in the morning. I was the first one through a couple of the trails, and within 100 yards of starting this trail, the insides. I could feel the water like dripping off my hands inside my glove.
Wow.
And the canvas free riders, it was as if I had jumped in a pool. I could feel the water like pooling inside my shoe.
Yeah, they're not even a tiny bit water resistant.
And once they get the water, they absorb it.
Yeah.
Right. It's like a cotton. They're not cotton, but it's like that terry cloth phenomenon. And I was soaked to the core.
Yeah. Things I don't like about the Freerider canvas, it's heavier.
Yeah.
It absorbs more water. It's less hydrophobic.
Right.
I don't like either of those things.
It lets more water into the shoe, not just absorb
Totally.
it, but it just like
Goes right through it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And holds on to some of it.
Yeah.
And the thing is, though, that the fabric has some give to it,
Yep.
and the tech fabrics on the other models
They have
don't.
no give.
And
yeah.
so they don't kind of form to my foot and make some room for my fat toes, which is
And
kind of worth all kinds of trade-offs for me.
It is, and it's along with what we're saying. Maybe that canvas kind of allows a little bit more of that
Totally.
foot freedom.
It does.
Yeah.
Foot movement. And people, I bet some of our listeners got caught up in like the barefoot running and minimalist shoe fad, like I did.
I am.
And like I still hold a
did.
lot of beliefs from.
I do, yeah.
So I think anyone who's on that wavelength at all is going to be like, oh, I think I know what you're talking about.
Right. Yeah, so but with that said, oh man, I think I'm gonna stick with the stiff shoes for now. The
Nice.
stiff synthetic
There's
shoes.
definitely benefits to them, and I think it's a more powerful lever. Your foot is a lever, and it helps your lever be stiff and powerful. So that's good.
Yeah.
And I do think that non-absorbing water is awesome and almost worth the price of it. Almost worth pinching my toes.
Right. Right. I wrote them once. And it really does to me right now, like I said our last show, I'm like, pushing the gas pedal on the outside foot, like pointing that toe. Because of the stiffness of the shoe, it is, like you said, a more powerful lever. So I feel like the ability of the ankle with your leg and foot, like that whole being able to push like with power on the outside to weight that is more efficient.
Yeah.
So
I believe it.
yeah, it's been a really interesting adventure in shoes. So
Hey, you remember our spreadsheet conversation when we talked about the
yeah.
customers with their spreadsheets
Yeah,
and how I
yeah.
love it and
Yeah.
how like that's a classic path customer move.
yeah, for sure.
I had a rider in the shop the other day who did something that reminded me of that. It's like adjacent to it.
Right.
And I was pretty psyched.
Awesome.
So two things about it that I thought were cool. One, he bought one of our shuttle SLs when we had our sale. The price was too good to advertise on.
Right.
And
That bike's awesome, by the way.
he used $975 in demo credits, which is cool. It's not the most I've ever seen anyone use, but like he demoed
A number of bikes.
and he really wanted to find the one he wanted, and he was really stoked on the one he was
Wow.
getting. And then I saw his folder for the bike buying project. And I would say 2.5 inches thick.
Oh
maybe?
my gosh. That's like was it a binder or was it like a manila
No,
folder?
it was a manila folder, like
nice.
wrapped around like a bunch of papers.
Oh my gosh.
All his notes, all printouts of Geo, like bikes, just like seriously 2.5 inches thick. He's been doing this project of deciding what the right bike is for 2.5-3 months. He's been documenting it and holding
That's
on to all.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Did you get to peek in the binder? In the holder?
No, I didn't.
Oh,
I kind of would like to, but I love that stuff. I think it's so cool that people are that immersed in the process.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that they care that much about their bike.
yeah.
And it helps me sleep at night knowing that people care that much about their bikes because it's job security for me.
And it's good that people share this passion, right? I mean,
Yeah. It also helps normalize my weirdness.
see, there's at least a couple other people in the world like me. So if this person is out there, if you brought that folder in, that would be to share some of the insights. We promise you won't be mocked. You'll probably be embraced.
Yes.
And be interested in seeing like some of the thought process that goes through, and what other bikes he demoed, and maybe what moved him in different directions.
But our riders, the riders that come to the path, a lot of the kind of classic, we get all types. I don't want to say we only serve one kind of rider, but I'm really, really proud of the fact that we serve a lot of these riders that care about their mountain biking and their mountain bike, it's really highly ranked in their life.
Yeah.
Like hopefully in a healthy perspective.
Life
but
priorities, like you have, everyone has their life priorities. Provide for your children.
Right.
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 Exactly. Mountain biking, and yeah.
Yeah.
I
Provide for your children. Mountain biking. Sounds about right.
I mean, that's two examples of many priorities in people's lives. So,
But it's a nice basic hierarchy that I can live by.
yeah. Oh man. Find good food.
Speaking of hierarchies, I had this crazy weirdo thought the other day. I've been trying to articulate and actually map out on paper some aspects of our organization.
Okay.
And there's the hierarchical aspect of it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I've been kind of fumbling with this, and all of a sudden I realized that a pretty good way to express it, and then I Googled it and found out this is a thing. I didn't invent it or anything.
Okay.
But I probably even heard about it and then forgot about
Right.
it and think I thought
Sure,
of
sure,
it.
sure.
Right? But it's a circular hierarchy.
Mm.
So it's not so much top down as it is in out. And I don't know why that matters, but when you look at it, it makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. So how does that apply? How does that apply within the shop here?
So there are at the middle of the circle, not to be egotistical,
Right.
but it's my business is
Right.
me.
Right.
And since I haven't handed off the CEO role, it's me.
Right. Like a hub and spokes.
Right. And then we have, and one of the things about our hierarchy that it's pretty fluid. So different people. So to illustrate, so you have the center of the hierarchy, you have the person who started the business and who's invested in making it happen. And then you have in my mind, you have the leadership, which are people who work on processes, systems,
Right.
infrastructure, make decisions about how managers will do their jobs, instruct the managers what their job is.
Right.
And then you have managers
Right.
who execute the vision and keep things going who show up every day and actually make it happen.
Right.
And they're where the rubber hits the ground, so to speak. Like they're literally doing the work
Right.
of being on the team that makes it happen.
For sure.
And then you have key players
Right.
who often provide kind of management level contributions, or even leadership level contributions.
Yeah.
And if you're really kind of have the flexibility that I'm shooting for, anyone might make a leadership level contribution.
For sure. Influencers are not, and people of influence are not necessarily people of position in an organization.
So, for example, Mark has been a tech here for a long time.
Right.
He's not a tech manager. He's trusted. He's and he has. We know who he is and everything, and we appreciate his. He's definitely a great contributor.
Right.
And recently, he pointed out. He pointed this out at a staff meeting. Like, I think the path would be a better place if ... if we did this form of ringing up employee purchases this way.
Right.
And kind of meeting went on, and now we do it that way. And
nice.
That's like a leadership level contribution,
for sure.
right? Like
for sure.
So I try to keep. I like that type of organization.
Exactly. Exactly.
But yeah, I digress.
No, that's awesome. That's great, and I love these digressions.
I'm sorry, just to get back to that. One of my favorite roles is to jump into the key player role and just sell some bikes, solve some problems, stop some stuff from going sideways.
Right.
Like not even manager. Like Like for me, the most kind of rewarding and fun is letting the manager take responsibility for running the show that day and just helping people. Right. Like just contributing.
Right.
Which is,
yeah, no, it's a great way to stay in touch with the shop with, and understanding that you call it a key player because it's very important.
right.
And
someone like, say, Jesse, who doesn't have a manager title in the shop, but on many days he's the person deciding who's working on what tag. That's a management contribution without question. And he has keys to the shop.
Right.
So like these are like manager type responsibilities, and like he doesn't really want the title of manager.
Yeah.
You know, and
Right, sure.
and he doesn't want all the responsibilities that come.
Right.
So
Right.
all good, but he can still help us decide what are the best tools to have and what are the best practices for this,
Sure.
and contribute at the meeting on a management level and all that. Right.
Right. Layout of the new shop.
100%. He does. I think Jesse's responsible for the tool layout at each work that's repeated at each workstation, and even the design of the wooden pieces that hold the tools.
Nice. Right.
Which part of that was because I felt like if we had spots that the tools specifically fit, the tools would stay more organized, and then we would have less lost tools and everything.
Yeah.
And it seems to be working so far.
Oh, that's awesome.
As in, like, actually, what I was like, maybe they need to be labeled and this and that. And Jesse came back with, how about if it's just
It fits the tool.
Yeah.
Right. And then everyone will know.
It's pretty awesome. It's a hand carved piece that perfectly cradles the tool.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
And it shows where it goes because it's the right shape for that.
Yeah. And the time to figure out where those go.
Right.
So that they're efficient for a mechanic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I think about that often in my own setup at home. I'm like, yeah, this is not the most efficient thing, you know? And so I was like, man, your setup here at the shop, like someone sat down with a lot of experience and a lot of thought to figure out like, how do we actually lay out?
Oh, and then we argued about it, and then we went and slept over it. Yeah,
Exactly.
for sure.
Exactly. No, that's fantastic. Other things going on. Let's see. We talked about the demo days. The customer who went through their purchase analysis. I suspect a couple of bikes that they looked at were Santa Cruz bikes. Probably in that, maybe.
I think he demoed some full power and some lightweight.
Right.
And I don't remember what exactly bikes he demoed. He probably demoed all our bikes.
So there was never a
in his size
push bike.
I think it was all e-bikes for this person.
Right.
I think he demoed the Shuttle AM.
Right.
For sure. And
maybe the Trance.
I think he did try the Trance Elite.
Right.
$900. I guess that would be like $195 to get to about 900. So I guess like four. Yeah. So
maybe the relay.
I bet he demoed the relay.
Yeah. Awesome. I do see a couple things jumping back on shop news.
High Towers and Bronsons so we have been having our unofficial sale on High Towers and Bronsons. Well, no, it's an official sale. We can't advertise the price.
Right.
It was 20% off. I can say that because by the time this show airs, will be after tomorrow, June 13th, that'll be a price you'll see around.
Right.
Not just at the path even. So I guess if we don't have the one you want, maybe you'll still benefit from
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
And we can, they're selling out quickly since we're getting ready for the sale.
Right.
Stocking up for the sale. But if Santa Cruz still has it, we can order it and give you that price too.
Oh man, that's fantastic.
So that's exciting. And we have a lot of other Santa Cruzes on sale that are not quite that much discount that we're still not quite allowed to say the price yet.
Awesome. Give us a call.
But I will say that that's the biggest discount. And I don't think any of them are less than, let's just leave it at that.
Okay.
And also, if you bought a bike from us recently and you're wondering if you got the sale price, you probably did.
Right.
Because we're not trying to.
Right.
And feel free to ask as long as it wasn't, for sure if it was within a few weeks.
Right. Okay. Awesome.
And, we often don't know much more than two weeks out. So we can't go back too far.
Right. Fantastic. How about a couple of listener questions?
Yeah.
All right. So let's see. OCHAIN because this is actually something I saw on the downhill bikes. A lot of guys and girls are running the OCHAIN.
What percentage do you think, or roughly shooting from the hip? More than half.
I was gonna say somewhere between a quarter and a half. Yeah.
Yeah, I bet the more chain growth the bike has, the more likely they want to run a no chain.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you see? Are you guys installing many of these?
We've only installed a couple.
I just think that concept is awesome, especially because you rode a bike recently that the high pivot with the Neidler pulley. But
I'm not so sure that bike needs it.
Yeah, exactly, and that's what I'm saying is that bike doesn't need it, but the rest of us who aren't riding bikes like that, why aren't we running OCHAIN?
Well, maybe I would just say as the counterpoint. I think maybe a lot of people ought to. I think it's a good question, right. And I think maybe the answer is
we ought to.
That people would benefit from it.
Yep.
But, the benefit of the OCHAIN is that it takes away some of the anti-squat and makes the suspension feel plusher, right?
Right.
And that's probably usually good, I guess, is my point, is that may not always be good.
I see.
As in, like, especially if you don't, and then there's the question too of do you have to retune your suspension around that, because you are going to live deeper in this travel.
Right.
You're going to have, it's like, I imagine you're going to have to run more damping, bigger spraying, some combination of those two.
Right.
If you do that.
Right.
Or not, I don't know. I mean, it depends so much on the rider and the bike and the setup and why and how. And so maybe it's not right for everyone. And again, I think for sure, if your bike doesn't have tons of chain growth, it's probably way less important.
True. Yeah, so cool concept. If you do, you could probably look at some suspension curves and sights and see if your bike is the type that might benefit more.
I was on Crestline site last night and I noticed that they have their leverage rate curve.
Oh, wow.
The graph.
Yep.
The wheel path graph.
The wheel path,
and the chain growth graph.
Oh, nice.
Which it took me a minute to comprehend, and I'm still not even totally sure I know exactly what I was seeing on the chain growth graph, because I think it's like it's the growth ratio mapped out. It's not how much growth there is in millimeters mapped out.
I see. So like percent the chain is growing
at a point in
the travel.
So it's like growing more in the beginning of the travel, which makes sense, and maybe even regresses a little bit and grows less towards the very end of the travel I think it just stops growing as much.
Right.
As it hooks back, as the wheel path hooks back towards the top of the seat tube.
Yeah. That's cool.
But shouldn't everyone do, like?
I think that would be a fantastic piece of information that everyone should have out there.
That along with saddle insertion depth. We still want that too for people who aren't doing it.
I know, exactly. So thanks for TD Amore for sending us that question on Instagram. Let's see. Oh no, that's J Ulrich 5612 on Instagram. Thoughts on OCHAIN. TD Amore sends us a question. He says, thoughts on optimal grip thickness. And
to me, I would say this is for sure it's like saying
preference.
Thoughts on optimal saddle width,
right?
Where it's a personal fit thing and a riding style thing,
right? Or even saddle shape,
right? So let's start with what we like. What kind of grips do you like?
I like very thin, like small diameter grips.
Me too.
Our hands are very differently shaped.
Yes.
I think maybe finger length, our hands might be somewhat similar. You have stronger hands.
I have fat hands. I have wide fingers and wide hands and wrists and stuff.
Right.
Sorta.
I have probably more average fingers. But I sort of felt like because of that, I feel like I need as small diameter grip as possible.
Okay. I like small grips.
Yeah.
for a few reasons. I just want to digress a little bit and say my recent obsession with grips is if I grip the grip hard and then try to rotate my hand on the grip,
Right.
do I slip? That's my big obsession with grips right now. And I
Right.
found that like how much hand fatigue I get is greatly influenced by that.
Do you slip if you're
In other words,
gripping
is the
hard?
grip slippery on my glove or grippy on my glove?
Right, right. Do you have to have a glove on to do this exercise?
Surprisingly, the results tend to mirror each other, with some grips being better with some grips work worse with bare hands,
Yeah, yeah.
and some grips work about the
Right.
same with bare hands.
Right.
But mostly, if they grip well, they grip well with bare hands or not bare hands, in my experience. And if you're, say, trying to manual the bike and the grip is hard to just rotate, if you have just a moderate grip on it, that is so much less work. And I've noticed on some grips, I feel like I'm fighting just to have the grip not get ripped out of my hand. And other grips, I never am. And the test is, if I grip the grip hard and rotate my wrist, how hard do I have to push before I slide?
Oh,
And some grips I almost can't make it slide, and other grips it slides almost immediately, and everything in between. And that is grip diameter mostly aside. And then there's the question of vagueness, where before it slides, does it wiggle?
right.
So like the extreme of that is like the rev grips,
Yeah.
but even like the pivot grips have a little bit of just give to them.
Right.
They have enough grip for me.
But that little give, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
It's good in that it can help with some hand fatigue and stuff, but for me, it's a little vague.
right.
So I'm not knocking it. It's just not my
Not
preference.
Your preference, right.
So in addition to a grip that has a lot of grip, I prefer a grip that doesn't have much movement of the grip material itself.
Right. So some grips, it almost feels like they get their larger diameter by increasing the padding,
Right.
and that can contribute to that vagueness.
Right. And then I also prefer to have my levers fairly close to the bar and wrap one finger around the lever and have as much of my fist on the bar as possible.
Right.
And the bigger the grips are, the further away I am from the end of the lever.
Right.
Which just isn't. I think even for big hand riders isn't really an advantage.
Right.
Now, if your hands are so big that they're like lapping each other under the bars, and
Right.
and you can't like grip because
You got like finger wrap.
But I think most people, if they try thinner grips and try one finger braking the way we set it up and everything,
Yep.
like it. Even people with moderately big hands.
Right. Right.
I also would say that bigger grips can really add some padding for people who are having too much pressure on their hands.
Right. Right.
But I would say 9 times out of 10, the better solution is a better bike fit,
Right. Or maybe different bars.
which might be part of a better bike
Yeah,
fit.
that's true. That's
Have
true.
we talked about bar height much lately?
Not a whole bunch, but I have been. Okay, I have been playing with bar height, but yeah, I have been playing with bar height, not because of rise, but because of spacers over and under.
It is my opinion that we, as a rider group and an industry and a community, you know how we have been undergoing this, like head angles getting slacker, reaches getting longer. I think we're also in the middle of we saw stems get shorter.
Yeah.
There's these trends that you can kind of see them happening.
Right. Right.
And
Cranks are
sometimes
getting
when it's
shorter.
early, it's a little bit hard to see the pattern.
Right.
But I think bars are getting higher.
Bars are getting.
And this isn't new. Like Kona introduced the idea of longer head tubes a long time
Yep,
ago.
yep.
Part of the success of the 29er movement, in my opinion, is that it made the bars higher. And I think I'm not the only one who thinks that. Longer travel forks make bars higher.
Yep.
We keep seeing higher rise bars on people's bikes more and more.
Right.
And
Going to be back at the Azonic double walls pretty soon.
2.5, which is 50,
Right.
which is currently, I think, 40 is the highest rise carbon bar I know of right now with a 35 mil clamp. I suspect that someone's going to kill it by coming out with a 50 soon.
Yeah.
I bet one up or someone, or unless it's just not good engineering to do so with that material or whatever. Because we have aluminum bars in the shop with that rise now. I suspect it's just faster to make the tooling for the aluminum maybe, or cheaper to invest in it, or you don't have to believe in as big of a market.
Right.
But there's been some really successful downhillers on higher bars lately. And I just keep seeing the trend in the store. And I will say, as I get older and more injured, my bars have gotten higher and higher.
But that's more bike fit.
It is. It is more bike fit. But I'm not so sure that hasn't been kind of like something that one of those, like, you thought you did it for this. You came for this, but you got that.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, I'm riding with my bars higher. I haven't actually measured, but I feel like on the fluid, I am definitely riding with the bars higher than I would have thought I would be. Both on on this, and that's a 120 head tube, not a 110.
So there are ways in which we're still learning to scale the bikes.
Yep.
For rider heights, right?
Yep.
And crank length, I believe, is one of them.
Yep, I agree.
I believe if you look at the variation in saddle height versus the variation in bar height, I feel like that's all you need to know there's not enough variation in bar height. Because saddle height in general is pretty relative to bar height.
Right.
In other words, most riders like a specific relationship between their saddle and bars for themselves.
Yeah.
And for most riders, that on a mountain bike, for most riders, that's somewhere between an inch below and an inch above.
Right. So as high as your saddles, as varied as the saddle heights are, the bars aren't.
Right.
Exactly.
And I think, like you and I are experiencing this time in mountain biking history where we're finally getting a crank scale similar to a 6'1" rider.
Right.
And 6'1" riders might finally be getting a handlebar height scale similar to what we've appreciated and enjoyed and benefited from.
Right.
Because it's relative, because it really is. Like your saddle height is your leg height, which is how high you are above the cranks, which is how high relationship to the handlebars.
Yeah.
Like,
and it's easier for us to get that.
It's easier for us to have a saddle height that is scaled large for our riding experience compared to them to have a similar scale.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, modernized Azonic double wall.
The Azonic double wall, I wanted to say, had way too much upsweep, and really, you're talking about the 2.5 inch rise one, was wide for its time.
Right,
but do the math on what 28 units of freedom is, and it's not very wide.
Right, exactly. Yeah. What is that?
I want to say it's like low 7s, maybe even high 6s, 6'8". What is it, 680?
Oh my gosh, 711. Oh my God. That was wide.
That was like, hey, wide bars can be really cool. Have you checked out these 711s? Except we called them 28 back then.
Right. Oh my gosh.
And, back when we had 26-inch wheels and short travel forks, it made a lot of sense that a lot of us put 2.5 inch rise bars on our bikes. And those bikes had short head tubes too.
Right. Probably 90 millimeter head tubes. Let's see. Is that a podcast?
I think it is. Thanks, Auk. Thanks, Jake. Thanks to all the riders out there. Thanks to the Path. Huge thanks to the Path crew, who we love our crew, and they're like. I don't even want to say anything about it because I feel like it undersells it. Like and like when you say the crew's like family, it doesn't.
Right.
This just doesn't express what you're trying to say, and it sounds wrong. Like it's so played out and like
sounds trite.
It sounds trite, but huge thanks to the crew, and let's all remember to love the bikes we ride.